This is Success in Excess, where elite founders, lawyers, and clinic owners engineer success through strategy, scale, and systems. Powered by GrowthX.
Hey guys, today I'm sitting down with a powerhouse in the legal space, Andrew Cates, a seasoned attorney, author, and advocate who's built a firm on one key principle: integrity meets innovation. Andrew's journey from early days in law to becoming a respected name in advocacy and government affairs is nothing short of inspiring. From serving the community to shaping policy, he's proven that law is more than a profession. It's a platform to make an impact. Today, we're diving into the story behind his firm's founding, the evolution of his career from attorney to entrepreneur, and how he's adapted to the changing landscape of law, and what it truly takes to build a practice that stands for both purpose and performance. Andrew, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you on Success in Excess.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So let's break down, let's go back all the way to the foundation. Andrew, take us back to the beginning. What drew you to law, and what inspired you to start your own firm?
So what drew me to law, I was in college when, and this, my whole practice is in politics. And I've been working in politics for probably 15, 16 years at this point. So people may or may not know the history of the Texas Democrats here. Back in 2003, I think it was, that they walked out and they went to Oklahoma and they made a big national press thing about it, and they left the state so that nobody could come and make them come back and take votes on stuff they didn't want to vote on. And at the time, I thought, those cowards, how could they leave and abandon the state and all that? I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to become a lawyer. I'm going to run for office, because I thought that's what you had to do to be elected, really, was go and be a lawyer. And so I went to law school. I also watched my mom go through law school when I was in middle school and high school. She went back to school later in life. And so I was, a teenager when she went through law school. So I saw her go through it. It was something that I was already kind of interested in. So I went to law school to try to go be an elected official. When I came out, I bounced around jobs a handful of times. I came out right before I got my license in November of 2007. And then 2 months later, the '08 financial crisis hit, right?
Damn.
So I was working 3 jobs to pay rent as a lawyer during the '08 financial crisis. And so I bounced around a little bit to try to find my footing. And I ended up catching the eye of somebody who organized the walkout of the Democrats in Texas and ended up working for a lot of them and with a lot of them over there. And so that's kind of how I got into politics overall, with a mixture of law. And then, after a while, I worked for a couple of different groups. I worked at the Capitol for a while here in Texas, and I worked for, the Texas Association of Realtors, the Texas Nurses Association, kind of working as a lobbyist, working as a lawyer. And after a while, I just kind of figured I wanted to go out and start my own thing.
Awesome. And, we kind of share somewhat of like a similar origin story. So my dad, he's an IP attorney. He owns his own firm, and he went to law school later on in life as well. He started a computer programming company. That was his first career. And I remember I wasn't a teenager, but I was probably like in elementary school. He was working 2 jobs, going full time to law school, show up late at night. And I watched him, really go into that grind. And that's really what's inspired me. This is the reason I've been in and around the legal landscape pretty much most of my life. So that's amazing,
That's cool.
how you felt that. And it's crazy how it came full circle. You witnessed it in 2003, and then I guess divine intervention, you come across one of the people that led the walkout. And I still remember when that happened. I was younger, but I do remember, my parents paid a lot of attention to politics and whatnot. So it was a very interesting moment as well.
Yeah,
Now,
for sure.
so you struggled, you worked hard, you grinded, and you said, I'm going to start my own firm. You have a passion for politics, and similar, a lot of people think that. So my wife's an attorney. She went to law school, and her undergraduate, she thought she had to do political science to be a lawyer. So now, later on, she's like, I should have never done that. I could have
Right.
gone and did something else.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
so Before you launched your practice, what experiences or mentors, mostly shaped your approach on how you handle your cases and clients today?
Ooh, that's interesting. I mean, you know, I worked almost entirely in kind of large, technically nonprofits. These statewide associations are technically nonprofits, and they have charitable arms attached to them. They have political action committees attached to them. They have big boards. They've got, an executive committee. You've got all these thousands of members that you've got to deal with and make happy and all that as staff. So you get, look, when I started with the first of these associations, I was terrified of public speaking, terrified of it. I would get up there and I would shake,
Yeah.
my voice would tremble, and I'd get thrown off. And, just like with anything, it takes practice to kind of find your footing and find your voice and all of that. I admittedly, my voice is being straight up no bullshit and honestly cussing sometimes through my
Yeah.
presentations. People find it very refreshing and honest. I am very authentically me when I'm up there, and I will go up there and I will say, hey, look, here's what it is. I know you don't like it, and I'm sorry about that, but this is the way that it is, and this is what's happening in, Texas politics or whatever. And they appreciate it. And I even say sometimes, like, I probably shouldn't be telling you this because this is really inside rumor mill baseball stuff. But I'm going to tell you anyway, because whatever, I don't care. And so, people appreciate that kind of being brought into the inside workings and getting the scoop that nobody else gets kind of thing. And so I had to deal with a lot of people all at once, giving bad news all at once to a lot of people and trying to make it land softly. And then, kind of managing up to my CEO, my executive director, the board, all of that. It didn't always go well, for sure. I rubbed people the wrong way in a couple of different jobs, and that just is what it is. It's personality differences, it is what it is. But when I finally decided that I was going to start my own firm, I wanted to be super authentic with my clients. If they are wanting to do something that's maybe a little sketchy or is not advised, I'll tell them. It's like, hey, look, if you want me to file this, I'll file it. It's a really bad fucking idea, but I'll do it. You're the client, and it's you on the hook. So, you need to know what the risk is. And if you have a high risk tolerance, my wife always kind of makes fun of me when she hears me because I say it all the time to all of my clients. When they ask if they can do something, I say, what's your risk tolerance? If your risk tolerance is high, you can do a lot of stuff. You should probably have a lot of money to back it up because you might get sued. But, if your risk tolerance is low, let's go by the book. No big deal. We'll go right down the line and I'll tell you exactly what to do and what not to do. But if your risk tolerance is high, we can play around with the middle. People seem to like that. And I'm also very upfront with, I offer, 3 different options of retainers for people so that it's a little bit more dynamic, fluid. It's not super rigid on, I am going to charge you this much and I'm going to charge you for every single 6-minute increment that we talk. I give a little bit more flexibility on that. So that's kind of how I structure it.
Awesome. And that's, you say, refreshing, and I see it as, being authentic. You see so many people nowadays in corporate America that are trying to achieve these, hyper professional positions, and they lose grasp of who they are. And I think, by you preserving that, it has allowed you to not only elevate but be more successful, because at the end of the day, if they say, if you do something you don't love, you're not going to do it well. And at the same time, if every single day you have to put on a character or a show or something that's just not who you are, eventually there's going to be cracks in the armor, and people are going to see you're not authentic, right? So bringing that forward thinking, straight up direct, conversation to your clients and letting them know, no, I'm your attorney. I'm here to advise you. I'm here to tell you, what you should and should not do and what are the risks involved. But at the end of the day, you're my client, and I'm going to do what you asked me to do.
Well, and at the end of the day, you're going to make the decision, not me.
Yeah.
I don't work for you. I work for myself. You're asking me for advice. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to make whatever decision you're going to make. I'm just trying to make sure you make the best one that reduces your risks as much as possible. I go to sleep fine at night.
Yeah. And then at the end of the day, when they're sued or anything happens, it's not your name on the suit, it's theirs.
No.
So they're billed
And
to
I've got all
pay.
the documentation to back it up to say, I told you not to do that.
So, when you started building your firm, so, you worked in these nonprofits, these statewide organizations, obviously probably some great networking, learned the
Yeah.
ropes, it's also, I could say it's a good entryway into politics and making sure that, dealing with people, that's what politics are, dealing with people, policies, and learning how to take different approaches. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced early on with the firm, and how did you kind of overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing about starting any business is sales, right? Getting people in the door is the hardest thing. I realized kind of early on that everything that we do is sales. And that kind of bums me out that A, I didn't do more of that training in college, and B, that I had the chance to do a joint Juris Doctor JD MBA while I was in law school, and I didn't. I really would go back in time and do the joint JD MBA because it would help a lot with networking, with sales, with kind of developing your own personal brand and pitch and all of that, and really just get to know how businesses are run, the finances, the startup entrepreneurship, all of that. It would be very helpful. So if anybody's watching and considering a joint one, do it, because it is a big regret of mine. But I also realized that lobbying is sales. I mean, that's all you're
Yeah,
doing. You're
that's
selling an
all you're doing.
idea to a politician and their staff to try and change their mind to get them to buy into what idea you're selling for a bill. And so, I mean, look, I will say it very plainly. I got lucky. I got really damn lucky because I had a good idea early on about, let me back up. When I got to the realtors, the first thing they told me was, we need you to get up to speed on the law to keep our political action committee out of trouble if it ever gets into trouble. We need to know the law. We need to go by the book. We need to do all this. There were no legal resources to tell you how to do that existed at the time. I went to the state bar annual meeting. There is a whole table of legal practice guides on wills and criminal law and civil law, family law, all that. And I went up and I said, hey, can I grab one on election law or on campaign law? And they're like, yeah, that doesn't exist. We don't have that. So, I mean, I'd go and I'd look stuff up while I was there, and I'd have 9 tabs open for, here's what the statute says, here's what the rules say from the regulatory agency, here's all 600 opinions that they've got out there that you need to look through, here's the case law, here's the attorney general opinions. It was just all over the place, and they had to jump around. So anyway, I spent like 2 years off time and just pulled it all together into one resource that I wanted to use. And then I started telling people about it, and they got hyped about it. And now I'm in the 9th year, or 9th edition, I guess, that I self-publish a legal practice guide on this whole area of law in Texas. And it's the only one of its kind, and I didn't do it initially to sell it. I did it so that I could have it, so that I could do my job. But now it's the guy that wrote the book on the issue, and so it sells itself. Not very well. Not very many people buy it because it's very niche, but the people that do are a lot of the people that matter within my practice. My biggest purchaser of the book is actually the Texas Ethics Commission itself, where I practice. So that kind of helps differentiate me right from the jump as somebody who knows what they're talking about. And so if there is a way for somebody to differentiate themselves right off the jump, then that's a great way to jumpstart your practice and jumpstart, your firm, to start getting people in the door, because that's the hardest part.
And just to clarify that, just for our listeners, it is the Texas ethics laws, right? Texas ethics laws is the name
I
of
don't
your
know if
book.
you can see it.
Oh,
I think it might
nice.
be mirrored, but yeah, that's it. And I mean, look, it's not a fun read. I mean, it's huge. It's like 600 pages, but it's kind of the culmination of 15 years of doing this stuff. And I've been able to develop the practice through that. People see it as an expert resource, which is great. And it just kind of helps get my name out there, which is awesome.
Absolutely. I mean, one of my best clients, he's a good friend of mine. He's an ethics attorney. I think I explained this to you earlier.
Yeah.
And really, it's a very specialized niche, right?
Oh yeah.
And to know it in and out and being able to argue it well and network with the bar association and bar committees to make sure that, you can get your arguments across. And having a book like that in its ninth edition, basically, like you said, everything is sales. It sells yourself, right?
Yep.
As an expert in the field, as a guy, because you can't, I mean, I don't know if legally you can claim you're an expert, right, in marketing, but the
Yeah.
next best thing is to have a book where I've broken down every single statute, every single application, opinion on the ethics laws, in Texas.
Right.
I mean, it's a great way to generate traction. It's a great way to generate visibility and exposure. And I think, by doing that, it also, hyper focuses your practice where you can really, stand out amongst the crowd. Cause I mean, at the end of the day, if you were just put apples to apples, somebody's gonna, they need an ethics attorney. They're gonna pick you,
The guy
nine
with a
times
book.
out of 10.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't have to
And
talk
it's
to you or anything,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And so, I mean, it is useful now. I mean, like I said, I'm, 10 something years into the firm itself. I mean, it's useful now because I don't do any marketing. I don't have to. And I know that that's rare. I'm blessed with that, all that. But I put in a lot of work to make the book. And, when people were talking about creating a board certified lawyer in family law, criminal law. You see it on TV all the time. There wasn't a board certification for this area of law. People talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, and nobody ever pulled the trigger on it. And so I just finally said, fine, I'll do it myself. And I spearheaded 100 attorneys to sign the petition and worked with the Board of Legal Specialization to get it all going and all that. And it's just another little step of differentiating yourself. And I think that I have kind of come into my own little professional motto of just saying, fine, fuck it, I'll do it myself. If nobody else is going to do it, fine, I'll do it. And it has served me very well, both with the book and the certification and maybe some of the plans that I've got coming up next.
Awesome. And with that at hand, right? That whole, fuck it, I'm gonna do it myself mentality generally is, in my opinion, and how I operate, it's usually the best way to go, right? I'm not going to
Yeah.
stand around and wait for somebody else to figure it out or hope it just magically appears. If I need something done, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to
Yeah.
get it done. And I know it's going to be done right and the way I need it to be done. And I don't have to worry about anything else. And I think that, really aggressive action taking is why you are where you are, why your firm has grown so well, why you stand out amongst other attorneys in a similar field. I mean, you're in a hyper focused field which is extremely specialized, and you're at the top of your game. And then also, rallying 100 attorneys to sign petitions to create a board certification for this type of field of law. I mean, that all kind of goes to your prowess in politics, getting people together, getting them to have a common understanding and agree on a common thing where now you're rallying. Because that's what politics is, basically, right?
Yeah.
Getting a bunch of people together that are representatives of a larger population to agree on certain matters and how to convince them or direct them in the way that you need it to be done.
Yeah. And, I've very clearly to me got like undiagnosed ADHD because I get bored really fast. And so, some of it is just being impetuous and ambitious, and some of it is kind of aggressive. And I regret it sometimes, but other times, I get tired of talking about it and I just want to do something. And so sometimes I just do. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but it has seemed to work out more often than not when I do it.
So we see how you differentiate your firm from others in the market. How has marketing and branding played a role in your firm's growth? Like, have you found digital presence, storytelling, any of that as a critical way to segue yourself in the industry? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously outside of your book.
Well, yes, I don't do enough of it for sure. I'm a solo firm. This office right here is like 15 feet from my bedroom. So I don't have a big presence. I don't have an office. I don't have staff. I don't have a separate office phone number. Everything is just straight to my cell. And so, I have gotten comments before that it is nice that I am super available. That also means I have to set boundaries sometimes
Of course.
because I am overly available at times. But I also, I mean, I've been told by everybody I talk to in like the branding marketing uh, arena, hey, you should be putting out more content on your website. You should be doing more blog posts. You should be doing more LinkedIn posts. You should be, you should find some tool to help you do that and do it more often. And I know I should, but for the same reason that I turned out to be a bad lobbyist, I would rather spend time with my family, to be
Of course.
honest. I mean, I was a bad lobbyist because I didn't want to go out to drinks all the time and take people out to dinner and go out to BFE, Texas to somebody's barbecue fundraiser for their campaign. I don't want to. That was never my thing. And, the people that do are the people that get those clients that just show up to them and say, "Hey, you're super connected. We want you to lobby for us." And that just never happened for me. I was always grinding trying to find clients. And so I gave it up. And that's why I went to the legal side and just stuck with that because I mean, for as ambitious and impetuous and all that as I can be on some of this stuff, I can also be really lazy on other stuff. And it's the branding and marketing that I'm really lazy at. Like, I just don't want to do it. And, if I made more money, I would probably hire somebody to just do it for me. But I don't. I'm comfortable enough and I'm spending a lot of time with my family, my wife and my son, and I'm happy about that. I do have a website that I've paid people to spiffy up a few times to make it work and look well. A lot of my branding and almost entirely of my marketing, besides the book, is that I talk to press. I talk to reporters all the time. And so my name is in news articles about political issues, ethics issues, campaign finance questions, stuff like that. I mean, like this whole redistricting fight that Texas did not that long ago that kicked off everybody in the country doing redistricting. I mean, I was on the news a lot. People asking questions about it. People need to understand it. And that's basically my marketing is that most people, especially lawyers, will not talk to the press. And I do sometimes, like I said, sometimes it gets me in trouble. I shoot off too much sometimes, and that's regrettable, but it's also my authentic self. And I just pop off sometimes. But, like I said, I talk to reporters a lot.
I mean, everybody has their way, and I think it's really genuine, right? At the end of the day, you're ambitious, you're hardworking, you're aggressive, but at the same time, the values and the principles have to be grounded. And, I'm probably, I'm all for, I spend a lot of time with my wife, my office. This is my second office in the house, right upstairs is my wife. I like to spend time with my family. And the whole networking thing, I'm on the tech council and chamber and this and that. But I honestly don't like the whole like faking and going, Friday night, I want to spend time with my wife and my family. And I'm not trying to
Yeah.
go out and have drinks and act like I want to be there until 9 o'clock and then
Right.
drive back. And then it's just, for me, it's fake. If I really want to spend time with you, I'll sit down with you. We'll have lunch or we'll talk or you'll come over. We can have a real conversation instead of just
Yeah.
handing out business cards and, fake laughing and dressing up for no reason. It's just, it feels so not genuine to me that it's like,
Yeah, and I did a lot of that when I was first in Austin. I was like, 08, 09, 2010, those first few years I hit all the young professional networking, events and drinks and all that. And I mean, I had in my head my own little standing rule that, I'm going to get my ticket for one free drink and I'm going to sit over there by the wall. And if nobody talks to me by the time that drink's done, I'm bouncing.
yeah,
And that was a terrible way to do it. I mean, networking is a skill just like anything else. And, eventually you get good at it. And, I recognize that, I could be a little introverted a good amount of the time when I'm, by myself and I don't know anybody at an event, but it is a skill and you can get good at it. And the people that do get good at it go really far, and they really actually turn into the great lobbyists because they can go somewhere and they never meet a stranger. So it's just, I feel like the pandemic kind of pushed us all
yeah.
into our homes and we all kind of stayed there. And that's definitely me. I mean, the ability to do everything over Zoom now instead of having to go do stuff in person necessarily, it shrinks your professional universe for sure. My professional universe has shrunk way, 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 way down since then. And that's regrettable, but it's all a trade-off. the quality of life for me is a lot better.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, after the pandemic and that transition, it also helped build efficiency in systems. Like, one of my clients, he's the president of South Florida, Legal Association. And now all of Miami-Dade County, Broward County, pretty much all of Florida, all their court cases are Zoom because it's just
Yeah.
more efficient. Unless
Yeah.
it's like a really serious matter where it's like a violent crime or something that's, a federal case, it's going to be Zoom. And why? Because it saves time, it saves money. Now,
Yep.
yes, we have to be a little bit more proactive if we want to, network, engage, meet more
Right.
professionals, and expand our circle. But at the same time, like you said, I appreciate the benefits more than the downfall. I get to spend time with my family. Life is a little bit more flexible. I can work better. And
Hmm.
just like yourself, I can be very introverted myself. I can get into my work and I can focus, and maybe on a Friday night or Saturday night, I'm fine staying in my house and watching
Yeah,
a movie, or
for
just
sure.
I don't need to be out at the newest restaurant. I mean, I can go there and I do it every now and then, but it's not something that's like compels me, where there are people every single weekend you see them out and about at new places, Friday,
Right.
Saturday, Sunday. It's just I work too hard and I just don't have time to just, it's just not for me. And I
Yeah.
mean, I think with the evolution of law, right? With the legal industry, it's evolving fast right now. With
Mhm.
AI, automation, the client expectations are changing daily. I mean, how have you kind of embraced that innovation in your firm?
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm a Luddite on AI by any means, but I don't have a I guess I don't have a big enough practice to specifically need AI tools to go and I mean, like I worked in one or two really big firms before I kind of figured out my path. And I mean, they had huge filing systems and floors dedicated to files. You got to go down to the 22nd floor to go find a file you're looking for, kind of stuff, and doing all kinds of big, huge litigation, case law research, and, mergers and acquisitions and all this kind of stuff. You got tons of paperwork that AI would be wonderful at parsing all that data and, tracking changes and figuring out what's missing from this document and all that. I just don't have that need. A lot of the times when I'm with a client, like they don't really even need a contract done. They need an entity set up and then go on your way, and I'll help them set up the entity and move on. Or if they want continuous help, they can call me or whatever, but a lot of it's more in my head than anything else, and so I just don't need a lot of those AI tools necessarily. I will say, the Google Notebook is rad. I love it personally. I have used it for, I mentioned that legal certification here in Texas. And to be perfectly honest, there isn't a like for attorneys, you go and you take a bar prep course
Yeah.
before you take the bar, right? I wanted to create a certification prep course and essentially kind of corner the market on the study guide. And so last Christmas break, I got bored, like I said, a little ADHD, and I sat down and I cranked out a bunch of presentations that would be usable for continuing ed to be the study guide for that kind of thing. And the way that I did that was I dumped a bunch of information into Google Notebook LLM, and it churned out a whole bunch of stuff that I was able to just repackage and dump into slides, and it was great. So yeah, I mean, I use some of it. I've helped some startups get up and running that use AI around the Capitol, and I've given them kind of legal advice on how to do that. But yeah, like the bigger, Lexis AI or some of these like other AI softwares that'll help you with your law practice and law practice management and all that. I just don't have a personal need for it because I'm a solo.
Yeah. I
And
mean, if you don't have, I mean, if you're a larger practice and you have 500 to 1,000 case files at a time open, going to docket, yeah, you need some,
right,
management, and AI will help organize it. But I mean, for your solo practice, it's all about that personal touch. It's all about, how you engage with your client, which no AI is, I mean, unless you have the volume of clients coming to you, yes, it can help you provide a better experience for them. But at the end of the day, quality over quantity. If you have, a limited amount of clients that, you're really hyper focused and personalized with, to throw AI into the mix would just be counter effective to that whole relationship building cycle.
Well, and I've noticed, and it's been reported on a bunch of times, right? Like lawyers trying to use AI and it
Yeah.
hallucinates cases and they get disbarred or they get fined or they get in trouble from a judge or whatever. I mean, I've seen it happen with one of my clients, with somebody filed a complaint against somebody with an ethics commission and said that they did something wrong. And here's where it says that they did this wrong. And I was like, that sounds like an AI answer to me. Plug the question in, kind of reverse it, plug the question in to get that answer into AI, got almost the exact same answer.
Oh,
And I copied and pasted that in the response on the complaint. It's like, these people used AI and this is incorrect, like factually and legally incorrect. And so it can be super dangerous,
okay.
and so, you gotta take the good with the bad and the tech with the, I don't know, classic lawyering, I guess, and just kind of do your own research. But it can be very helpful. I mean, I still use. I've been trying to go back and forth between figuring out whether I want to use GPT, DeepSeek, or Gemini. And honestly, I just kind of settled on Gemini because it came with all the other tools to,
In the Google
use
package.
with Gmail and my Google Calendar and all that stuff. It's really just trying to make life easier.
Um, I mean, you're absolutely right in that aspect. I mean, just recently, I think it was a couple months ago, Morgan and Morgan, one of the biggest, if not the biggest personal injury firm in the country, they were just cited in a case because they used AI, and in the court case, it cited case matter, and the judge signed off on it until somebody took a deeper look at it. And the case matter that it was citing was a case that never existed. It had made up
Right.
the whole case altogether. And these top attorneys from the firm are arguing in court, citing this case matter. And it's also right now, so there's an argument out there, right? You have artificial intelligence, then you have synthetic intelligence.
Hmm.
Synthetic intelligence, I think, is going to be more beneficial to us because all artificial intelligence is a faster, quicker library of information that's stored, but that has
Yep.
that whole semi creativity spiel on it. But it
Hmm.
doesn't, at the end of the day, give you the quality that's needed for these hyper professions, especially, people get lazy. The creativity is gone, the
Oh yeah.
imagination, and the people that are going to stand out are individuals like yourself that are going to get down and dirty and do the work and say, fuck it, I'm going to do it myself, do the research, and I'm going to cross check and vet and make sure everything is right. Where a lot of times now, people are so lazy in their work, they'll just, create a post, chat GPT, create me a LinkedIn post. There's no idea. There's no thinking. Create a blog.
Yeah.
There's no imagination in there. And then you start seeing massive amounts of content coming out, and everybody's like, oh, they're producing all this content. But statistically, traction has fallen down because nobody's paying attention to it anymore because it's just fluff. It's garbage, right? Nobody
Yeah.
wants to read it.
Well, there's just so much. You can't even keep up anymore. And that's what, I get the comments like you need to post on LinkedIn more. You can use AI to do it, just plug in a couple of keywords and they'll basically write the whole article. And it's like, yeah, but like, I mean, what if it hallucinates? What if it lies? What if it says something wrong? I mean, that's on me.
Yep.
Now I'm putting shit out there that's incorrect, and that looks worse on me than if I had done nothing. I'm fine with a little bit of mystery, like
Yeah.
y'all come and find me. I'm around, but I'm not gonna be on social all the time and just constantly posting. This just look, I'm 43. I guess I'm technically an exennial, elder millennial. I grew up without a cell phone until I was well into driving. We didn't have smartphones until I was in college.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm that generation that was kicked out, during the summer. Get on your bike and go
Go
outside,
play outside.
drink from somebody's hose if you get thirsty.
Uh-huh.
Don't come back till dinner. Like that was the generation. And that sounds so old fashioned. And especially now, like I can't imagine doing that with my son. Like I would be so worried, but it was just, a little different time. And, it is really easy to get pulled into that dopamine cycle of being on your smartphone all the time. And I catch
Mhm.
myself doing it so often. And I actively have to try to put your phone down. Just put your damn phone down and leave it alone. The world is not going to end. So it's anyway, that's kind of an aside, but that's just kind of a constant battle that I've got of, you don't need to be plugged in all the time. You don't need to be on social media all the time. Twitter is an absolute hellscape. You know, do not need to be on
Oh,
there all the time. It will bum you out more often than it won't.
I mean, I'm in the business, I'm in legal marketing. I've been in marketing ever since I left mergers and acquisitions, building companies. And I'll be honest with you, personally, I don't do social media. I don't post on my Instagram. I mean, other than the business side of it, if I have to do for business, but my wife and her friends, they're always posting and everybody always saying, "Oh, how come you don't post, but you're in I was like, personally, I don't like it. I think mystery nowadays, right? So back in the day, right? Knowing everything was power. And I
Yes.
feel like now, not knowing things or not letting people know things is the real power, like withholding.
So you want to hear a fun story? Have you seen recently, and this doesn't help the like mystery, don't be on social media thing, because this was all over social media just the other day, the Louvre robbery?
Yes, I
Did
did.
you see the thing where it was that like potentially French detective that was photographed that was like super dapper? He had the hat on, a little cockeyed and everything. And it was like, who is this detective? Who is this guy? Somebody try to find him. Da, da, da. Turns out it was a 15-year-old kid who was there with his parents just to go to the museum. And he just always dresses like that because he's a dapper French kid. And when he found out that people were looking for him, he set everything on his socials to private and intentionally went dark to continue to build mystery around himself. And only like 2 days ago, maybe, did he finally like open it back up and let reporters talk to him and all of that to just like artificially build the mystery around this character on purpose. And I was like, damn, that guy's a genius. That is smart. So anyway, it just kind of goes along with that.
No, yeah. I mean, actually, that's very well strategically played. Build
Yeah.
up the momentum, don't give into it. And then when the time comes, I mean, the way that people, I mean, it's also that whole instant gratification that everybody has now, right?
Yep.
And that's why, hard work and, going back to what you said, I grew up in a similar generation. I didn't have a cell phone growing up. We played outside. I didn't have a smartphone. Smartphone actually didn't come out until I was like in my third year of college, right?
Yep.
So there was, many times where, you're out and about. There's no phone on you. If you're out of gas or whatever, I mean, you're shit out of luck. You walk and figure it out.
Figure it out.
And I see kids nowadays, like I took my nieces to the park and they're at the jungle gym, but each kid is just sitting down at different parts of the jungle gym. Maybe they went to the top or bottom, but each one just has a tablet in their hand. None of them are actually playing together. And I'm like, it's sad, because it just puts you in a position where it's like, people are losing personal connections.
Yep.
And we notice that the way society is working and the way that the younger generations are, they're losing their social abilities, right? They're
Yep.
becoming less and less, able to handle their emotions, less and less be able to handle, certain situations. Like if things happen bad, it's catastrophic. It's just, it's a very weird time. And you see how all these systems are at play. And if you look at some of the biggest tech owners, I mean, if you look at Zuckerberg, his kids, they don't have Facebook accounts. They don't even have tablets or
Right.
none of that.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
goes to question, what is it doing?
Yeah, and I feel like back in the day, the common answer to what do you wish you had studied, if you can look back on it now, what do you wish you would have studied that could have made you, a millionaire today, or, would have been more applicable today than, like political science. And, a while back, that answer was computers and computer science and coding, right? Like I should have been in computers. I could have made so much money going to Google or whatever. I think for me, at least, that answer is social psychology, understanding how big groups of people make decisions and how groups of people interact and think, because I think that applies to lobbying and politics, that applies to elections overall, that applies to the stock market, all kinds of stuff, like what
The whole
makes
economy.
people act and react as a kind of collective consciousness. Like why is the stock market dipping? Because one guy sold off a bunch of Nvidia, like stuff like that. Like why is all of this stuff happening? Kind of big picture thinking like that is where I would go back in time and study that instead of, fucking World War II history or something, doesn't help.
I mean, you make a point. I mean, if we look right now, the government shutdown is not effectively over yet, right? But
Right.
it was announced on Sunday that they came close. They didn't come to an agreement. They came close to an agreement, which doesn't mean shit. Really, it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And Monday, the stocks rally again. Friday, Thursday was bad, but just that twist and that, manipulation, and that's what it really is. It's a manipulation of the economy and the market,
Right.
the way that people, go into certain things. And a lot of people just don't fact check anymore, right? They don't
Right.
really look at what's going on. They're like, I can't tell you how many people told me, I think it was yesterday, actually Monday, the government shutdown's over. And I'm like, no, it's actually not. It's not over at all. They just said that they're coming close to an agreement. And they're like, no, it's over. It's over. I'm like, no, it's not. It just keeps on spinning. Then you see how the markets, respond to it. So I think social psychology is a great game changer. I mean, if you could go
Yeah. Right.
back and
Like,
study that.
yeah. Like, what happened to get us Barack Obama collectively? Like what changed to get us Barack Obama? What changed since then to 2012 to get 2016 to get Trump?
Trump.
Like what the hell happened in our collective conscious or unconscious? I mean, there's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot to go into that, but I feel like the social psychology of where people had hoped something would happen here and didn't, and got disillusioned and got pissed off. Internet culture, whatever. A lot of different things play into it that if you really dig into it, you might be able to kind of figure out retroactively, if not causation, then at least correlation to how we end up
Yeah.
here.
I think one of the biggest catalysts is the expansion of social media
For sure.
and how social media has played a role in how everyday life is interpreted and what people do. Because a lot of people nowadays, their whole life is centered around social media, from their jobs to obviously their social life, but it's all just an interpretation. And that, I think, was one of the big changes, because we had Facebook back when Obama was around, but it was, it was pretty much just Facebook, right? Maybe like WhatsApp and stuff like that. But there wasn't, Twitter wasn't that big. Instagram wasn't big. TikTok was not around. And now it's just in YouTube at the time. I mean, I think if I could have gone back 10 years, I think what I would do is started, a YouTube channel and, just make stupid videos, and nowadays make millions of dollars because people are just clicking and viewing it because that's all they do.
I mean, shit, Dude Perfect came out of Texas. I think they were at Texas A&M. I mean, all they do is just do trick shots of shit, and they're huge,
Oh, yeah.
because they monetize their videos. And it's, I mean, same thing with what's his face, Mr. Beast.
Oh,
I mean,
my
he
God.
figured out the algorithm. He figured out how to get his stuff to the top of the feed and just monetize.
10 years he's been doing this. 10
Smart.
years.
Very
In
smart.
10 years, he's turned it into $1 billion.
Yeah.
That's faster
crazy.
than Elon Musk.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And it's all through YouTube, and it's all through theoretically, it's all through affiliate marketing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, dude, I remember I was at South by Southwest when Twitter launched and signed up on somebody's freaking iPad or something to get my handle at South by Southwest when they were nobody.
When they were just a little bird.
People ask now, it's like, well, how did you get like just your name, Andy Cates, as your Twitter handle? I was like, dude, I was there when it started, when they announced, and now it's this whole thing. I mean, it's crazy how that stuff blows up.
Oh, yeah. It's all about the evolving markets. I mean, it's continuing to evolve. And, with the AI revolution that we have going on now, I think that, they keep on talking about, and this is kind of off topic, but as we see the market dip and bubble and wobble, I mean, you have crypto on one side, and then you have the AI boom, right?
Yeah.
And they go kind of hand in hand. And what we see now is everybody's worried that, the AI bubble is going to burst. All these companies are pumping billions of dollars into it. But the question is, to what end, right? I think I just saw the other day that there's some billionaires out there that are trying to create a human baby through cloning. Even though they're not allowed to, they're still going to do it. And it's just like, to what end is this, and how does it benefit us in the long run, right?
Yikes.
It's
Yeah,
just
there's a lot of just because you can doesn't mean you should out
Oh
there.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's I mean, it's an interesting time, and we see, how the markets are changing. I mean, even with the tariffs right now, don't go too much into politics, but if we see the tariffs, I think a lot of people got a reality check with the tariffs because they assumed that because we're America and we're the greatest and the biggest and the best country there is, we're going to impose a tariff, and all these other countries are going to be like, well, we can't do it without you. And a lot of these countries like China and India and Russia and, all these other countries basically said, we have self-sufficient economies
Yeah.
that we can rely. I mean, yes, we will lose some money not working with you, but we still are going to move forward with or without you. And now we kind of see a pullback. And I think it was a good lesson for us to learn. So we kind of understood that we're in a symbiotic relationship with the world, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been either realistically or in our own minds the center of the world for a while now, and it was inevitable that it was going to change and that people were going to get a little fed up with it. But I think that we're probably going to see a restructuring of world power after all of this,
Oh yeah.
because
I
it
definitely
was
agree.
inevitable.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's change. I mean, change is good, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and we talk about that, change in structure and world power. And as we pull it back into that, right, when you think about legacy, right, legacy is, why and what you do and what it means after you're done, right? For you, right, with a legacy, what impact do you want your firm and your work to leave behind?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be able to I want to be able to help people, I guess, overall to play fair, play by the rules, to affect some change in the rules and the laws to make them better overall. It's not an original idea, but I had an idea a couple of weeks ago that I'm now floating around and working with people on. Really could be the most important thing I ever do, and that is that we in general, not just Texas and not just one party or the other, just kind of overall, we have a shockingly small bench of lawyers out there that know the law around elections and that understand, and that's horrible.
Yeah.
And over the last however long, the parties have been asking lawyers to be on call to kind of be spot check for things, but it's always pro bono and nobody has any money to pay them. And so nobody's really incentivized to learn it up and try to make a business out of it or anything like that. So my idea, like I said, it's not novel, but create essentially an education charity foundation to train lawyers in all of these issues over however long, and then have money set aside in
Fund
another
them.
another fund to pay all of their legal fees
Hmm.
when things come up, and basically parachute lawyers in as problems happen and don't put the financial burden on the county or the small, mayoral candidate or whatever that's not going to be able to afford it to pay these people, so that you can kind of professionalize the profession essentially, or the action, and make sure that, election integrity and all those kind of buzzwords are really loaded terms these days, but they don't have to be, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be tied to one party or another. I think both parties have a want and a need that democracy as a whole is protected, and the democratic process of casting a ballot and making sure that it is secure and fair and they are all counted equally, that process continues, because that's the bedrock of our democratic institution. And so, I think that this idea could potentially help with that. And it very well, like I said, I feel like it very well could be the most important thing I ever do. Kind of
Hmm.
create some entities that are designed specifically, and it sounds heady, but that are designed specifically to protect the democratic process.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say that it's an honorable idea, and I think that it's a much needed idea in this time. We've seen so many questions on the integrity of elections from Georgia to all these different states, Pennsylvania, and and like you said, I mean, is it set up in such a way to make sure that nobody does take a deeper look at it because they're not incentivized and we're not going to pay for it. So, I mean, it's that whole like concept. I mean, you kind of bring it up. If you look at, inner cities where there's a lot of crime and poverty, where they let drugs go rampant because it's the place where there's no funding and they don't want the funding there so they can continue doing what they're doing. And in
Right.
the same aspect, the integrity of the democratic process when it comes to voting and ballots and how it's counted and how it's organized and how it's actually put together, at some point in time, it leaves a lot of loopholes and empty points where people can manipulate it. And that is a perversion of the US Constitution and what we are as a country. I mean,
Right.
we're supposed to be the free world, the biggest democracy in the world, but the main pillar of democracy is voting representation. If
Right.
that is perverted through this process, then it's the same as what Saddam Hussein getting voted into office or whatever. It's
Yeah,
sad.
it's not like an attack on anybody. Look, a lot of questions have come up over the past 10, 15, 20, however many years about the security of the ballots, security of the ballot boxes. Where did they go? Were they, chain of custody of these kind of things? Electronic voting systems. How safe are they? How secure are they? Do we need to, press pause on what's happening so that we can take it to court and get some discovery to figure out what's really going on in there? That sort of thing. Just to, well, I mean, like I said, ensure the integrity of the process overall. Like I said, it shouldn't be a, this party versus this party fight. I would intend to have people from both parties involved on it. I think it is just a protecting, yeah, like you said, just the fundamental right and security of voting. Anyway, I hope that it gets legs and takes off. I don't know how. It's funny because it's very likely that I helped create this thing and then work my way out of a spot with it personally because I may or may not take the training myself. It's just I'm to a certain point in my career and it may or may not be something that I want to do myself, but I want to make it available to a bunch of other people. So anyway, it'll be a fun exercise, but I think we're gonna get started on it.
I mean, realistically, that's a testament to your character, your integrity, right? You're not doing it for financial gain. You're not doing it so you can be in the spotlight. You're doing it because it needs to be done and you are feeling compelled that it's the right thing that needs to be done and it needs to be in place. And whether you take part in it or not, you're just trying to facilitate that the process is started and that there is, certain avenues and concessions to make sure that these rights, these principles, these, foundational pillars of our system are protected. And I think that's extremely honorable because, you're not going in and be like, I want to take the claim to fame. I want to spearhead it and be the leader and have everybody know that I'm the one that changed the system. I mean, it just really shows a lot about your character that you don't really see nowadays,
Well, I mean, I appreciate it. I think it kind of falls right within the old motto of everything else that I've done at this point of just like, all right, fuck it, I'll do it myself.
Yeah. So as we come to wrap this up, looking ahead, what's next for you and your firm outside of this and any big goals outside of this? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years for your firm and yourself overall?
Yeah. I hope to get a little more plugged in with, a little more plugged in with the legislature, a little more plugged in with maybe I mean, look, I'm a Democrat and I'll just own that. Plugged in more with the party. Maybe I would like to get maybe a little more, in with people that have a little more responsibility. Maybe if the Democrats get some statewide electeds in office for the first time since, Ann Richards, it would be nice to, get in there and affect some policy, especially around uh, campaign finance and ethics and lobbying, that sort of thing. The laws in Texas haven't really effectively been updated since 2003 at best. So, I mean, we've got laws on the books that are outdated as of Citizens United and I have to tell people, don't worry about that statute. That's not enforceable anyway. Don't worry about this. That's not enforceable. They just haven't pulled it off the books. That's already been invalidated by a court, and it's not fair to people who look at the law to not know that that law doesn't exist and doesn't apply anymore. It would be nice to get in there and try to make some change like that. But otherwise, I mean, I just want to keep helping people as long as I don't have to go out and do all kinds of crazy marketing to draw people in the door, and I can just, help people that come to me. I'm happy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
You know, one of the things that's, really stands out, and, you mentioned this a couple times, not wanting to do crazy marketing. And like I said, I've been doing this for about 15 years, been in the field. I've helped over 100 firms, and we've helped all types of firms. Some of these guys, they only do like criminal defense, personal injury. I've worked with some really hyper focused firms, from ethics firms to plaintiff legal malpractice firms to nursing home negligence to IP litigation on satellite communications. And one of the things that you bring up, none of these type of field of law do really crazy marketing outside of building network connections. Okay, prime example, if you're looking to do an IP litigation, they're not going on Google and they're not going on
Right.
Facebook or running ads, right? Same thing in your position. If somebody's looking for an ethics attorney, if somebody's looking for somebody to help them in this field, they're really going to go to their professional network and kind of reach out that way, because you need somebody that's on a much higher level that can be trusted, that builds that confidence. So I don't think for your firm, crazy marketing would even work per se. I mean, it can work. Obviously, you will
Yeah,
generate clients.
there's just not a huge audience, right? Like the
No,
universe of people is not, were you hurt by an 18-wheeler wreck kind of thing? Like
it's
that's
not.
that's everybody, right? It could be
Yeah.
anybody, but it's not for this. And so I have had people in marketing say like it's just hard to pinpoint the foreseeable audience and customer base here, because they either already exist somewhere or they don't exist but might later because they decide they want to run for office. And like, how are you gonna
How do you,
anticipate that?
yeah, you can't premeditate that. I mean, there are some ways. I've worked on a few campaigns. One of my clients is a congressman in Ohio, really great guy. He's an attorney, and he came down with an illness. He was terminal, and he pretty much the NIH saved his life.
Wow.
And it was because back when the Democrats were in office, there was funding for the NIH, and one of these trials saved his life, and he became very passionate because he had heard that the NIH was cutting funding, and the very trial that saved his life. And he's a young guy. He's like 42, two
Wow.
kids, breadwinner. He's like, how many other people are not going to have the opportunity at life because this is happening? So now he's running, congressman in Cleveland, and we've helped him with his campaigns. And it's a different perspective in the marketing. It's really more getting out there and having a personal touch. And I would tell you, if that's a direction you want to go, or even ethics, like one of the biggest things is just building your network of attorneys. There's no way to predict who's going to get a bar violation or get
Right.
a complaint. But being in that circle, it's kind of like a spider web. Somebody knows somebody that's dealing with it. And if you are the top guy in the field, you're going to get referred out. So the marketing for that is more, it's touch points versus big bright stars, right?
For
Big
sure.
bright ads. Uh,
For sure.
but yeah, definitely.
Hey
So
man, I don't know if this was a pitch, but I'll talk to you about it.
yeah,
Because I mean, it is hard. It's hard to find that audience and to find that universe of people to actually proactively market out to. I was told the other day that I didn't know, somebody plugged into ChatGPT and asked for an ethics lawyer, and my name was the first one that popped up in ChatGPT, and I was like, oh shit, I need to put that on my website. ChatGPT's most recommended lawyer.
I can't tell you how. So the two components that have worked really well, for my client, just food for thought, has been SEO
Mhm.
and AEO and content, blogging, and that's pretty much it. He started his practice, ethics attorney. He did family law and criminal. He segued family and criminal. This is when he first started because he was just trying to, make ends meet, taking cases to build a firm. And now that the ethics practice has taken so much traction, because DC has some of the most ethics cases. There's at least 6,000 a year. There's a lot of attorneys in DC, politicians, lobbyists, everything like that. And, we learned a lot in the process because it's more about putting yourself in the top position than just, like you said, ChatGPT. A lot of people are going to use these tools to find their recommendations because they don't trust their own. And, we have to position ourselves and write quality work. And I tell everybody, ChatGPT is great, but when it comes to marketing, if you're going to use it for content, you might as well just not write content. You're better off writing, 500 words by yourself, original, than if you got 5,000 words of ChatGPT. It's just
yeah, I agree. I mean, I guarantee you would be able to tell the difference between me writing in my own voice and ChatGPT writing for me.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Oh yeah. It's just very I don't know. It's just weird. Like, 'cause I was doing it yesterday and I was looking at it, and I was running up some email sequences, and I was just like, this just doesn't sound like a person.
Right.
I mean, it's perfect grammar. It's
a little
perfect.
stilted, Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, who talks like that? But one thing I want to do before we wrap this up is, where can people find you? Right, when you're in Texas, you're an ethics attorney, you do lobbying. You're on the forefront of a lot of exciting things. How can somebody find you, get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, I've got my website is just andrewcates.com. Even though, we talked shit about it earlier, I am on social media. I'm on Twitter. It's just at Andy Cates. And then, I work with a bunch of groups. I'm online all the time. And I mean, LinkedIn is probably where I would post the most often, honestly. So there's LinkedIn as well. So yeah, just a couple of socials and my email and my website. That's about it.
Keep it simple. AndrewCates.com. Awesome. Andrew, realistically, at the end of the day, your story is an incredible reminder that success in law isn't just about winning cases. It's about building something that lasts, something that matters. You've proven that with clarity and consistency, courage, and growth. It isn't just possible, it's predictable. For everyone, really like listening in, your whole story today really just inspired me in the fact that, you're a guy that's hardworking, that's, ready to roll up his sleeves, do what he has to do to get it done. He's not waiting for others to do it for them. And just a really aggressive, forward thinker that's humble and at the same time really just, screams integrity. Just the whole concept. Nothing I heard from you today in this conversation, none of it was selfish, right? None of it was like, I want to get this and I want this for me. I want people it was all about how you can structure principles, policies, and how it affects others, and how you just want generally good things to come about it from it, right? You want that to come about. And it's very rare. I've done a lot of podcasts, done a lot of interviews, and I've heard a lot of boastful people talk about how great they are and what they've done. And it's just really refreshing. And again, it's a testament to your character and who you are. And
well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
It was an honor speaking with you today.
Thanks. Me too. It was great to be here. I appreciate it.
Well, guys, if you like today's episode, please subscribe, like, and comment. Recommend again, you can reach Andrew Cates at andrewcates.com. All his contact will be in the description below. Until next time, stay smart and keep your integrity high.
Own your growth. Scale with systems powered by GrowthX. Subscribe to Success in Excess for those who lead with precision and scale with purpose.